Hey guys, Nathan Brooks here, and I'd like to do a series of videos to where I take a bow out of a box, set it up start to finish where you guys can follow along and see how to do this process yourself. Obviously this is going to take a while because I'm going to discuss all the ins and outs about tuning. I'm going to discuss all the possibilities and problems that you could potentially have and how to fix them. So as I tune this bow, which is the new 2018 Elite Ritual, which I've also tuned several of these already and they're pretty easy to tune, so I don't think we're going to run into any issues tuning this bow, but at the same time there will be fine-tuning issues that I know I'll have to do to make it fit me really well. So you'll get to see that, and also what I want to do is discuss the issues that you might have when you're trying to set up a bow, whether you're getting a left tear, right tear, high tear, low tear when you're paper tuning, and then how that correlates into your bare shaft tuning, or whatever tuning process you may use. I want to help you as much as I possibly can figure out how to not have the problems because of the setup, because many times people set things up incorrectly and that's why they run into problems. So what I'll do here is I'll outline in this at the end of this video how many videos I will make, and now obviously some of these might have a part 1, part 2, but I'll go ahead and put the title to the video there. That way if you want to just skip forward several weeks and watch the bare shaft tuning section, or you want to see the peep tie-in and how to get the peep sight to rotate correctly, or whatever, you can choose and pick which video you'd like to watch. So without jabbering on a lot further and making this longer than it has to be, let's get right to work. So the first thing I want to do is I want to set the feel of the bow. So I pull this out of the box and I want to check the draw length, I want to check the poundage, I want to check the timing, the cam timing that is, and then I want to set the limb stops. The limb stops obviously for this particular bow create the let off that you have. Now your bow may not be this particular bow and the let off is predetermined and you have no way to adjust it. That's okay as well. The feel of the bow will be however it actually feels when you draw it back. However, this 2018 Elite Ritual has tons of adjustment to fit you and however you want it to feel. So those are the first things we're going to do. So in order for me to check the poundage and get the draw length set correctly and get all the specifics exactly the way I want it, I use a hooter shooter. Now I know not everyone has one of those, but a lot of you do have draw boards. If you don't have a draw board, there's other methods that you can use to check your draw length, and I'll discuss that later. But for now, what I need to do is I need to tie on a makeshift D-loop. And I'm going to tie this on just quick, and we'll actually discuss how to tie on a D-loop correctly later on in the series. Tying a D-loop is very simple. It's known as a lark's head knot with a burn end. At this point I'm not really worried about where I position the loop on the serving because its only purpose is for hooking up to the release on the hooter shooter. So just somewhere here in the middle is fine. Here we go. This is going to be my hunting bow, so I'm looking for about 60 pounds. And that's at about 61 and a half. Honestly, that'll work for me. I'm fine with that. And let's see, it's at full draw right there. And here's what I use for checking draw length. This is a metal ruler. I've cut the end of it to where it has a little groove. And it's dead, if you can see that, it's dead at the beginning of the ruler. So I just set this right here where the arrow would snap in, measure to the pivot of the grip. This measures about 28 and 3/8. So that means my total draw length is about 30 1/8. So that's pretty close. I'm usually about a 30-inch draw length. So what I'm going to do here to change that just a little bit, I'm going to get it to 30 inches by adding just a few twists in the string. And then also what that'll do is that'll drop the poundage just a hair, and instead of being 61.5 pounds, I'll probably be right at that 60-pound mark that I'm looking for. So let me go make those adjustments. So here's what I suggest if you don't have a hooter shooter or a draw board at home. Get an arrow that's plenty long enough to snap on the string and extend out past the bow when you draw it back. Before you snap it on the string and draw it back, mark on the arrow 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30, 31, depending on what you think your draw length is going to be. Measure that from the throat of the nock and mark these 26, 27, 28 through whatever number in bold markings, and then at every 1/2 inch interval put a small mark. This way it'll get you close. Now if you have somebody at home that can look and see when you draw the bow back where these markings actually come to on your riser, then that's going to help. But if you're doing this by yourself, take a camera, set it on a tripod. Before you do that, even if you have someone helping you at home, go ahead and make a mark on the riser just above the pivot of the grip up here on the shelf. That way you have that particular point marked and you can easily see where it's at. So you snap the arrow on the string, you draw the bow back. When you get to full draw, if you're recording, obviously you just get close enough where you can see your marks on your arrow and the mark on the shelf, and then you know exactly where it comes to. And then remember to add 1 3/4 inches, and that gives you your true AMO or ATA standard draw length. Alright, so I added 8 twists to the string, and I'm not really particularly happy with adding any more. And the reason why is because it already has about the correct amount of twist in it. So adding more twist makes the string kind of look like a snake. So, and the reasons for that we can talk about later, because I want to discuss strings and cables a little bit later down the road. But about 8 twists is what I added to this particular string, and we'll see what that does for my poundage and my draw length. It's now saying 59.8, so it definitely dropped my poundage down about 1.5 pounds. And now let me check the draw length and see if that got me to where I need to be. Yep, I'd say that's right at 28 1/4. So that means the bow is a 30-inch draw length, because you add that 1 3/4 inches to get the additional measurement that you need to be AMO or ATA standard draw length. So now that I know the poundage is correct and the draw length is right, I want to check my timing and I want to check my draw stops. Now to check the timing on this particular bow, every module that you put on it to change the draw length will allow your cam to come to full draw at a different position. I like to measure the cams at full draw instead of at rest. That's just the way I've always measured them. And what I'm looking at here at full draw, there's a mark here where the module sits down into the cam, and it's almost even with the limb, and the bottom looks the same, so that's close enough. And I know for a fact that when I looked at this a second ago that the draw stops, the limb stops are very close. Top is hitting, bottom is just now hitting, so that's perfect. So my timing is good, and my limb stop setting is also good. And that ought to be good enough for me to tune this. Now let's talk about that for just a little bit. On this particular bow with the binary cam systems, and as a matter of fact on all Elite bows that I have played with and tuned, timing of the cam is not ridiculously important. But what is important is that the limb stops hit exactly the same top and bottom. Now, you might say, well, how come the timing isn't so important? Well, these cams are slaved together. And so if one starts just a little bit ahead of the other one, when you draw it back, it still hasn't affected the knot travel enough that it's really got everything out of sync. And so as long as your limb stops are hitting identical top and bottom every time when you draw the bow back, that should provide a consistent enough knot travel and a consistent enough anchor at full draw for you to be able to achieve consistency. Now, I'll also tell you, for you target shooters that are out there that are playing with this stuff from time to time, you can actually adjust that cam timing and do a lot of experimentation to find out where the bow actually hits more consistently for you. Because like I said, you can adjust the limb stops wherever you want them, but once you get those set, those are solid. So you can change the timing of the cams in order to change maybe a vertical tear that you're getting through paper, or maybe a vertical issue that you're having when you're bare shaft tuning. So keep those things in mind when you're making it further down the road in the tuning steps. So now that I got everything set up on the bow and I'm comfortable with the way it feels, I'm almost finished and ready to start the next step. But before I do that, what I want to do is I mark the cam on the top and bottom, above and below the limb, where if a string or cable stretches or moves, I can easily see what's happening, and so I can make the appropriate adjustment in order to fix it and get it back the way it was originally when I started. So I'll make those marks now. Do top and bottom. And there, now it's marked. I can see it very well, and it's ready to go. So let's discuss a little bit about why this whole step of setting the field is important. This is your foundation. If you make any changes from this point on, you'll want to go back and make sure that all of this stuff is the same. Because if you make those changes and later on you're having problems with your bow, maybe you're not shooting as well, sometimes it helps to go back to the basics and say, okay, is my poundage the same? Is my draw length the same? Are my marks on my cam still the same? Have I changed anything? And so that's why this step is important, because it sets the foundation for the entire tuning process. Now, sometimes you have to make changes in the way it feels, or maybe you might have to make a tweak or a change in the way the cam is timed, or something along those lines. When you make a change, you have to remember to come back to this point and check everything else, and then realign it and mark it just to make sure that you don't forget where it's supposed to be. Because this is essential for any target shooter, any serious hunter, that when you're in the field and you're actually in the heat of the moment and something is going wrong, you need to be able to check things out and know that it's exactly where you started. Stay tuned for the second episode of this video series where we discuss installing the arrow rest. Basically how to set up a fall away arrow rest, the do's and don'ts, that sort of thing. Again, I'll have listed here in just a little bit all the titles to the videos that I'll be covering. If you have any comments or suggestions, something you'd like to see covered, go ahead and add it in the comment section below. Guys, get out, go to your local dealer, give these rituals a try. I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. These bows tune amazing. You're going to find that out during this video series. And go honor the ritual and join the movement.